Thank you. How are you?
Doing all right, hanging in there, hanging in there. How's the end of your
Yes.
school year? Uneventful? I'm guessing.
But sadly, yeah, really uneventful, but
We're all dealing with this crazy situation.
yeah, exactly.
Did you have a virtual graduation yet, or that's coming up?
No, we did. We had it on June 4th. It actually beat all our expectations, so I guess better than I expected, so it was fine. Yeah.
How so? Tell me details, please.
It was very nice. I mean, for me, especially, I like got together with a few of my friends as well as like a lot of my family, and like they tried their best. There was a whole ceremony. There was like a commencement speech. We had like people singing, and like they had like people, yeah, coordinate like instruments and things. I don't know. It was cool. They tried their best, so I guess it was very
Did they have robots that came and collected the
nice.
keys from the
Sadly not,
president?
but they even delivered to each senior's house. They delivered like our diploma in a frame with our pictures and like the invite for the virtual graduation and everything. So I guess it was okay.
That's amazing. That's great, considering the
Yeah,
circumstances. That's pretty good.
yeah.
Very
So
cool. Have you left the house yet, or are you staying home and staying away from the outside world?
I mean, no, a few times I have since they've opened up. I've seen like a few of my friends. So yeah,
Good. Slowly getting back to normal. So baby
yeah,
step.
God, hopefully, yeah.
How's your brother?
He's good. He didn't get a chance to come back. Oh, the older one, I'm guessing, but he
Yes,
didn't get
of
a
course.
he hasn't got the chance to come back yet. He's still in Dallas, but he's doing well. He's okay. He's with some family there, so it's fine.
Good. Good. He must be
Yeah.
done with classes now. He must have just finished recently.
Yeah. He has. He finished exams and I think he's taking a summer class so for UT, but he's okay. Yeah.
Good. 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 So I know you're going to USC. We're going to talk about it in the webinar. We had
Yeah.
the Hopkins logo up, and I'm like, wait a second. I don't know if she's going
Yeah.
to. Better.
Yeah, I know. I saw it as well, and I emailed Nireen. Yeah.
I'm going to pretend not to be hurt, but it's
I knew this would come up.
no, it's cool. It's great. No, it's exciting, right? Because
Yeah.
well, we'll get to it later, but you have to follow your heart, right? Like there's a place for all
Yeah.
of us, and it's sometimes not necessarily the place maybe where everybody expects you to go or
Yeah.
assumes that you would go to simply because it's got a better ranking or whatever. But
Mhm.
I think they've done a good job at USC. I have quite a few students there, so they're telling me that some of
Yeah.
them are still even on campus.
Oh, now?
Yeah, they're living in the
Oh,
dorm still.
really?
Yes, yes.
Oh, but I mean, they've emailed us letting us know they have like a few committees that are like devoted like day and night to like helping us get back in the fall and like with the sanitization and like many different programs. So I guess that's good, but that's good.
Do you have any older friends who go there from DAA or other universities, other
Yeah,
schools?
there's a guy that graduated last year that goes there, and I was speaking to him for a bit.
What,
Yeah.
what, what was his experience like the first year? Was he happy?
Oh, he's very, very, very happy with it. Actually, like he texted me as soon as he knew that I got in, which was like very, very early, like before I had made my decision or anything. And he was telling me, he was like, you have to come here. Like, it's the best place. Like, everyone loves it here, whatever, whatever. He seemed very, very happy with the decision. So.
Yeah, I feel like USC students have a lot of pride. You know,
Yeah,
they're
they
like
do.
fanatics, like
Yeah,
Trojans, and they let
yeah,
everybody know that they go there, which is cool.
yeah.
Very good, very good. I think we'll just wait a couple more minutes here until it's 5, and then we'll start the discussion, which will be cool. Have you watched any of the other webinars or no?
I have. I watched one of them and then I started watching the second one as well. Yeah.
Cool. Which one did you watch?
I'm not sure. I don't want to say his name incorrectly, but Stanford. He's going to
Is
Stanford.
it Adit
And
or Part?
yes, Ajit.
Yeah, he's a good kid.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
And then the other one was a girl that actually goes to my school, Maya. She's going to Chicago.
Oh yeah, Maya's great. Are you
Yeah.
guys friends or are you just like acquaintances?
We used to be a lot closer, but like I mean, we're acquaintances. But I guess yeah.
Cool, cool. But it's a
Yeah.
small community
Yeah.
there. Very
Mhm.
cool. Good. I think Mekdi, we'll get started now. Nermeen, is it okay? Do we have your permission to begin?
Yes, all clear for me.
Okay, thank you. You're the boss here, so I appreciate it. So
Mhm.
thank you everybody for zooming in. Thank you for attending our latest episode of the Ivy Insider series. We're very privileged to have Mekdi from DAA join us today. She will be attending USC in the fall. And Mekdi, welcome.
Thank you.
Very happy to have you here. My name is Peter Davos. I'm the founder and CEO of Hale Education, and very excited to learn from Mekdi's experiences, her insight. I think obviously these webinars are so useful, particularly for the younger students who are here, who are thinking, you know, how can I get the set of acceptances that maybe Mekdi did, or the scholarships, or how was she able to navigate the process effectively? What did she do right? Also, what does she wish she did a little bit differently? So I think they are obviously the target audience, and we'll leave plenty of time for questions at the end. Anybody, students or parents alike, can feel free to input their questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to get through all of them at the end of the discussion. But we were just joking, Mekdi, earlier before we went live, that a few of us or someone in the office was under the impression that you were going to go to Johns Hopkins, which you were accepted to, but ultimately you're going to USC. So what made USC the choice? What was the defining factor in you deciding to go there, or were there many factors?
There were many factors. I mean, in terms of between Hopkins and USC, I'll get to that later, but just in general, I feel like with USC, since like the 8th or 9th grade, I think, Peter, even you remember, I even spoke to you about it. I was like, I've always said USC, but I mean, back then it was just because it was like sunny California. But I mean, later on, like looking into it as well, whether it be, I mean, obviously the location, on top of that, they have like a great alumni network. And if you look into like any of the students as well, they're so passionate about like where they go, like they love it there so much. And then also, I think a big part for me was that like they have a combined major for like exactly what I want to study. So I feel like that was a big part for me as well. They have like, they combined international relations and economics into one major. Yeah, and I think it was many different factors.
It's amazing because USC, maybe for some of the older people like myself and maybe a little bit older, you know, we knew it as the University of Spoiled Children, right? Have you heard the moniker?
I've heard that a lot, yeah.
Do you think that's true today, or no?
I'm not sure. They brought it up. Actually, we had like a welcome week, like Zoom call the other day, and someone brought it up to like, she was like the president of admissions or something, and someone brought it up to her, and she was like, yeah, we spoil our children because we love them so much. But I do get the stigma that like it's all these students paying for like a private education in Los Angeles, and I get that. But I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen anything so far. Everyone seems like humble and nice that I've spoke to so far. So hopefully it stays that way.
I think that probably was the case maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. USC was known as, you know, where you went to university if you want to get into UCLA, but then you didn't get in, right? But now USC has become so incredibly competitive. And I think the last 10 years, especially, the acceptance rate has plummeted, right? It is nosedive. Did you know what the acceptance rate is for this application cycle, this past application cycle?
I think we're like, I don't know, 15 to 20. I'm not sure the exact number.
I'm sorry for putting you on the spot there, but it's actually 11.4%. Yeah.
Oh, what?
I had to look it up.
I did not know that.
I looked it up when I was, you know, doing my homework for the webinar. And my jaw dropped because this year, again, last year was like 14. Year before that, it was closer to 18. And now it's in line with Johns Hopkins. Like 16. Yeah. Yes. So it's 11. It's you know, on par with Cornell and many other, you know, top 20 universities. So it's just becoming tougher and tougher to get it in every single year. And it's obviously because more people want to go there. So what were some of the specific, you talked about your major, you talked about the sunshine, but for example, why USC and not, let's say, a UCLA or a UC Berkeley or another big California school that maybe to a lot of the students here appear to be similar?
Yeah, okay. I think in terms of between the UCs and with California, for me, the only school I applied to in California was USC and LMU as well. But I think that like one of the biggest for me was if you look at the UCs, I feel like they're just too big. And like, I know some people like that's where they think they would thrive, but I think especially with what I want to do, I kind of wanted a smaller, like I know USC isn't exactly small, but I mean, in comparison to like the UCs, for example, and I visited UCLA and all, and I just felt like it was just like it was too big, and I wasn't sure if that's where I wanted to be exactly. Yeah.
Did you visit USC as well?
No, I haven't. I drove by it actually, but I never actually visited it.
It's incredible because most of the students that we work with here, they typically, if they like California, they want to go there and they won't apply even to any, schools on the East Coast or the Midwest. But you were a little different because, like you said, almost all of your schools were on the East
We're
Coast.
on
You
the
were not
East Coast.
solely
Yeah.
focused on California. So how did that kind of factor into your decision making?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I love California, but I also love DC as well. I have like endless amounts of family there. And I mean, they have many opportunities available for what I wanted to do. So I had like I think, 3 or 4 schools in DC itself. So, I mean, for me, it was between the two. And East Coast, I felt like, and for me, it was either California or East Coast, mostly because I felt like that's where more of like international feel was, or like the bigger corporations per se, or like, yeah, and that was very important for me as well. So I made sure I focused on the coast, which actually ended up making my decision so hard between like DC and LA. But
And I think your decision was also very difficult because you had so many acceptances.
I mean, yeah, a good
How
problem
many?
to have.
Absolutely, the best problem to have.
Yeah,
How many
yeah.
universities did you apply to?
I actually applied to 10, which some people think is a little, but our school, DAA, does put a limit on you. And I mean, you can, if you go and like make a convincing case, they do allow you to apply to more, but it's kind of a process. And like, so I did only end up applying to 10, which I thought was okay considering the schools I want, like the amount of, I sat with my counselor and made the list of like reaches, targets, and safeties I wanted to do. And I think 10 was a fair number. So I ended up applying to 10.
Okay, very good. And how many did you get into, if you don't mind me asking?
9 of them.
9 out of 10, quite an impressive record. And if I remember correctly, you also received some considerable aid. You had some scholarships that were pretty big that I think factored into, how complicated it was to make your decision, because you did receive I think more than a fair amount of money from some of your universities.
I did, yeah. I mean, a few of them. I think the biggest one that made it hard for me was GW, because they gave me a good scholarship. I think 20K per year.
Mhm.
And on top of that, they like admitted me to like this women's leadership program, and like it was in DC, and also I thought that like that's why GW was up there for so long for me. I was picking between that and USC at the end. So yeah.
Okay, great. And then Northeastern, I think, gave you a fair amount of money as well, or Boston University?
No, not Northeastern. I know LMU gave me considerable scholarship. UMass did. GW did. Yeah.
Very good. And we talked a little bit about Hopkins, right? And Hopkins, my alma mater, so obviously I'm very biased. It was an incredible experience for me. And if we look at the rankings, US News has it as number 10, which, is up there. But I would say you bucked the trend. So many students, at the end of the day, they will apply to a balanced list of colleges like you did, but they'll always gravitate towards the highest ranked university. But for you, it seems that Hopkins wasn't even in the top 2. So can you talk a little bit about why that was, and if that was an easy decision to turn it down? And if so, to the students who are here with us, how are you able to come to that conclusion?
I mean, obviously it wasn't an easy decision to turn it down, but I feel like for me, after I had got my acceptances, I went straight to like what everyone else does. Like I make a pros and cons list and everything, and like try to weigh it up in my head. And it felt like if I was to go to Hopkins, I was like constantly hammering to myself like, oh, I mean, duh, like the ranking, like I wasn't really taking into like consideration all the other factors that like all the other life factors, I guess. So for me, then it was more of an easier decision to like maybe sway me towards the other schools, and also because I looked into like a lot of the unfiltered sources, maybe like talking to students that went there, or like looking up like blog posts and everything, or like just simple like YouTube videos, like a day in my life. And I just felt like when looking at like the happiness or like, you know, the competitiveness, I just felt like I would fit in more, like be able to thrive more at another school maybe. So yeah.
Okay, very good. Amazing. No, I think that's very valuable advice for the other students who are now thinking about where to apply, and then once they get in, where to enroll. What was harder for you, applying or making the final decision as to where to go?
I mean, obviously, because when it's deciding, I feel like there's no sense of like anxiety or like stress, I guess. I mean, that's like a good part. It's just as stressful, I think, for me, especially because deciding your next 4 years, obviously. But I think the sense of like uncertainty isn't there anymore, because like with the application process, it's all like, is all of this even worth it? Like I think that weighs down on you a lot more.
So you went through moments of doubt, right? Or how do you describe your emotions when you were applying prior to submitting your applications? Were they up, down? Were they consistently? Did you feel under pressure? What was that process like?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of up and down for me, and it was pretty obvious with the amount of times that I changed my college list itself. And I think mostly for me, it was because I doubt myself a lot, especially when it came to like my standardized testing and everything. Like I kept telling myself maybe like, oh, you wouldn't get into the school, you wouldn't get into this school. So I ended up moving like removing a lot of top schools as well from my list. So I feel like that was one of the hardest parts for me.
What about the writing? You applied to a fair number of schools. Most of them had supplements. You worked very closely with Elijah, who, as a literature major, I think is one of our most talented team members. So tell us about how you approached the writing. How did Elijah help you? How difficult was it to get through your personal statement and your supplements?
My personal statement, that took like a lot of months. I started at like end of my junior year, and that went well into this year as well. And I think especially for me, it's because I had over like 10 different like versions and drafts, and I had to keep like striking out paragraphs and everything because I wanted to change what it was like showing about me and everything. But I think Elijah was extremely helpful in that process as well. And I mean, I take a lot of writing courses, for the IB, so I don't really struggle in like my day-to-day writing. But I think when it comes to college writing, it's just very different. Like it's continuously picking like every word you're writing with like a fine-tooth comb. It's a lot more detail and everything. So I think the help from Elijah obviously really did help me. And in terms of like adding that extra bit to your writing, like makes it engaging, or like trying to put all your ideas into like 200 words, or like those crazy word counts they give you. I think in terms of that, it was very helpful to work with someone like Elijah.
And you touched on starting early. You started early for the writing process, also for the college research process, but you started the process with us quite early with Hale. What grade were you in when you started the process with us?
I think I was in 10th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like the beginning of my 10th grade, very early on. So yeah,
and I knew that was helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even going into it, I knew the help I was gonna get, especially because my brother finished through Hale as well, and I knew how much, like with the writing, with building up my resume, and for me it was little things as well. Like a lot of my friends didn't know about opportunities of like doing summer courses, for example, but like through Hale I was able to do a summer at Georgetown and like explore some of my interests there as well. So I feel like it was very helpful to start on early and not just like maybe the final year with my writing. I feel like building up my resume and like with summer courses and everything, it was very helpful.
You know, some parents are skeptical, right, as to the value of the summer courses in the US. Not all of them are created equally, but they tend to be quite expensive. But what did you take away from your summer course at Georgetown? What was useful for you in terms of, the entire experience?
Mm-hmm. I think for me, first of all, I really wanted to do one on international relations specifically, because I feel like it's not a course, like me taking economics, for example. I've done economics all of high school and stuff, but it really allows you to like explore college-like classes that like maybe before that, it would just be like a name to you, like you didn't really understand what you would be learning or anything. So I think it was helpful in that way. And on top of that, I feel like it takes away an element of like uncertainty, because now I kind of know what it feels like to like stay in a dorm for like 2 weeks, stay like eat in the like eat in the dining halls, live like a normal college life for a bit. And I feel like that was very enlightening.
And tell me about the differences, since you've experienced now the college setting through the summer course, between your IB courses and what you experienced at Georgetown.
Oh, I think that's very different. I feel like, especially with what I took, with like being in the foreign service school in Georgetown and like meeting such cool professors, I feel like when you're doing IB or anything like that, it's like we have one syllabus, it's like our textbook, and we're kind of learning out of that. But once I was sitting in that college class, it was so much like current events, or like we would have so many discussions, like they would ask a lot of us for opinions, and it is much bigger classes, but you're just so engaged that like I didn't even really feel like we were in an auditorium even for my summer course classes, but I felt like it was just very different, so much more engaging, and like yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Very good. And you go to Dubai American Academy, right? Very international school. I'm sure you have God knows how many dozens of nationalities there.
Yeah.
But when you were at Georgetown, was the student experience different from, you know, in terms of the students that you met, your peers, or was it pretty similar to DAA?
I mean, no, there was a lot more Americans, obviously. Like I think a lot of the people I interacted with were coming from within the country. But I mean, there are people that have different backgrounds. Even if they are American, a lot of them do different, like bring different things to the table, different ideas, different everything. So, and it's very cool to like all be there for the same interest, but like at the same time, while I came from 16 hours away, some of them were from DC, some of them would be from like California, Texas. So I think it was still a very cool experience.
And that's what I think about when I think about diversity in the US. It's not just about, here we speak about diversity in terms of nationality, religion, ethnicity, but in the US it's a lot of diversity of thought and diversity of experiences, diversity of backgrounds, right?
Exactly.
So many students are there maybe on financial aid, they've been sponsored through, you know, programs, otherwise they could not afford to go to a pre-college like Georgetown. Did you find that as well, that it was just a different type of diversity at Georgetown?
Yeah, I touched on this on my personal statement as well, actually, not really in terms of Georgetown, but just saying how in Dubai, for a place that's so praised for its like internationality and everything, that like in terms of like socioeconomic or anything in terms of that, it's very like the same. You don't really meet that many people like diverse. So once you go there, yeah, people may, I don't know, look the same or like be from the same country, but I feel like they bring so many different things to the table as well. So yeah, I did really feel that.
What did you write about in your personal statement?
Okay, it was a few things actually, but I mainly focused it on what I think is my biggest journey outside of school, which was I'm heavily involved in community service and volunteering in my home country of Ethiopia. And I basically wrote it on how like seeing my high school here and kind of drew a parallel with the school that I volunteered in when I went there. It was basically a summer school that was started by this organization, and we worked with these kids to like, it was a summer school, but kind of to prepare them for their next year of school and to help them stay out of obviously like the troubles that they'd have in their day-to-day lives on a normal summer day without normal school. So what I did was I taught English there, and I spoke about that on my personal statements, but then also kind of hit onto like how this forced me to like realize my privilege here and that like I should be doing more. And on top of that, like how me realizing this also makes me realize how so many people around me here in Dubai might be a little more like naive and not realize like their privilege and what they could be doing. So how it forced me to have different uncomfortable conversations, and like how that forced me to have different like educational disparity conferences in MUN that I was also a part of. And so yeah, I touched on that.
That's very interesting. You know, some students I think who are zooming in here today, you know, they may be considering the UK as well as the US. And the UK, it's a highly academic, you know, admissions process. They focus on your grades, your scores, etc. In the US, they care about your grades as well, but they care about who you are as a person, right?
Yeah.
So why do you think that's important from the university perspective, that they take into consideration volunteerism, right? Which you were committed to on a recurring basis for years, not just through a one-day event, right? Or sports week or a cancer walk or something like that.
I think that is very important, and that's one of the reasons that I thought the US was the best place for me as well, because I mean, my academics are decent, but in terms of like test scores and stuff, I know if I was to apply somewhere that only looked at my test scores, I would be nowhere near as competitive as an applicant as I am right now, I think, because I think my story out of school as well helps so much, which I think is very important to look at. And that's one thing the US is doing right, because I feel like there's so much more to a person than like one testing score. Maybe like sitting and doing a standardized test isn't like their best ability, but if they're so passionate about something, they'll be actually like committed to that they'll want to work on that, use like that school and their education to even like go further after that. And I think that's just as, or if not more important than like any of like testing and like any academic scores, for sure.
I agree with you 100%. And are you familiar with the term emotional intelligence?
Yeah.
Okay. In your own words, what do you think emotional intelligence is?
I mean, it goes more than just like, I don't know, numbers or anything, but like, you know what to do in a situation that requires like, I don't know, like feelings towards something, or like something, being passionate about something, or yeah. So when it comes to a situation where like it's two people and they'd have to compete to like accomplish something that's more like less about maybe the actual doing like math or like something like that, but instead it's like caring for people, helping people, something that could make more of a difference, you would be able to excel a little further than like your peers that maybe just focus on like, I don't know,
that are just academically intelligent, right? Yale now actually measures emotional intelligence in its MBA applicants, and it's been proven that emotional intelligence is actually a greater indicator of professional success than academic intelligence, right? Can you communicate? Can you empathize? Can you understand other people's points of view? This is incredibly important. And I think what's really fascinating about you, you know, and made you a very compelling applicant is that so many students your age, they feel that they're contributing by raising awareness, by maybe, you know, having a Facebook page or putting together a blog. And that's great, but to translate that into action is something that's very different. So for you, it was not just about raising awareness. It was about you committing time, right, and effort to a cause that you care deeply about. And what I think maybe that a lot of students that maybe have not participated in, you know, volunteerism in an extensive way, they don't understand, is the impact on themselves, not just the impact on, you know, the students or the group that they are there to help. So I'd like to hear more about you. How did you change through this, through these summer experiences, through this volunteering?
I think one of the biggest things for me, and that I touched on my personal statement as well, was something as simple as gratitude. Like it treats you, like it teaches you to be a lot more like grateful for what you have, because then that pushes you to like excel in things that are given to you as well. And an example I gave was I talked about one specific girl that I met and made a more personal connection with. And I think like seeing her, because she stood out to me because of how much like every day she would complete her homework, ask questions and everything. And for me, it was like for something so little as like a summer class where it's just other students teaching her, but she's so thankful for that. And like for the little that she has, she's just using that to push her. For me, it teaches me that like I'm being given all these resources and I should be able to do a lot more with it. So I think that gratitude changes into like a sense of like motivation for you as well. And I think people do get a lot more out of volunteering, like you said, than like you would think at first.
Incredible. Now, have you had the chance to research some of the hundreds of student organizations at USC?
I have, yeah, I have. And they have a Model United Nations as well, which I'm very excited about. So yeah.
Amazing. So you're going to and the MUN organization, I'm guessing they go to the national conferences. I think the biggest one is at Penn every year, which is exciting. Which other student groups are you looking forward to joining?
I was actually, I'm already in touch with a few other people that are going in from my year as well, because one thing that I was really excited about for universities to have more people from my background of like being Ethiopian or Eritrean and around like East Africa especially. But USC actually discontinued the group like recently because there wasn't like enough students. But there's already like me and 8 others, I think, that already have a group, and we're trying to like start it up again so we can do what we can from USC to help back home as well. So I think that's one thing I'm excited about.
So how are you able to connect with those students, even though you haven't formally enrolled yet?
Yeah, because there's a few like Facebook groups, Instagram accounts, and everything for the class of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously like people have been posting and everything, and through that we've just been like seeing who says they're Ethiopian and like trying to connect through that.
Amazing. Now, for you, obviously you did not visit USC except for a quick, drive-by and hello.
Yeah.
Guessing most students are not going to be able to travel to college campuses this summer as they usually do. So how did you get to know USC better, through, digital resources or through meetings with admissions officers that were held at school? How did you properly research the school and then feel comfortable that you did want to apply there for the right reasons?
Yeah, I mean, just real quick, if it makes the people feel a little like feel any better, I didn't visit any of the 10 schools that I applied to, and my brother visited 10 different schools and ended up going to the one school he didn't visit. So I think obviously I won't say it's overrated, but thanks to like technology and everything, there's so many different ways that you can get to know a campus. I mean, maybe I'm just like into YouTube, but there's so many people that like vlog their daily lives on a campus. You can literally know the insides of like every room before you even attend the university. And I think maybe for some of them, you can even see more than you would see on a normal tour of the university. So there is obviously that. And I think there are a lot of virtual tours organized by the school, but what I've seen is a lot of those happen for me after I actually got in. So I'm not sure if those are available online as well. But there is a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of blogs that tell you about the campus and everything. So I think you can get a pretty good feel online.
Very good. Did you attend an information session hosted by a USC admissions officer, whether in person or online, prior to applying?
I came to one in Hale actually, and that's where I met my my actual admissions officer, the one that controls, I think, the Middle East applicants. And I saw him at Hale first, and I think I saw him twice in a row, actually 2 different years. And then I saw him at school the 3rd time, and at that point he started recognizing me. And I think that makes it obviously a big impact as well. So yeah.
Right. So he could put a face to the application, right? And oh, it's you again, which obviously helps when from your school. I'm sure there were many students who applied to USC, and then if we kind of look at Dubai, then Abu Dhabi, then the entire region, there are hundreds of students that are applying to USC.
A lot, yeah.
Very good, very interesting. Looking back, if we backtrack to the application and preparation processes, what's the one thing you could have done differently in your opinion, or you learned from, let's say?
I think for me, probably I brought it up a bit earlier, but not doubt myself so much, because I feel like, I mean, it's not a sense of regret. I try to tell myself I don't regret anything, but now that I did get into, I think, all my reach schools, if I had put maybe a bit more when I had doubted myself and told myself oh, I would tell myself with that testing score, no one's gonna even look at you. And I took off a lot of the bigger schools off my list. And I mean, even if I wouldn't go, it would have been, it was worth a shot. So maybe if I went back, I would have kept a few more top.
How was Elijah helping you in this process? Was he there constantly trying to reinforce how special you were and how you would get through this? Was he supportive?
He was. He did actually force me to leave half of my schools on the list, because he's you should have more faith, you can do it. And he kept trying to emphasize to me that as a whole, my application was a lot stronger than I thought. So I mean, that was very helpful also.
Did it help that he was also from East Africa and had gone through the process and secured, acceptance to the #1 liberal arts college in the US, his personal experience? How did that translate to helping you in your journey?
I think for me, also first of all, he knew a lot about my culture as well, which made me feel a lot better. He had like a few friends in uni, I think, that were from Ethiopia. And on top of that, I think he also encouraged me to like, I already had so much about my like self academically in terms of my extracurriculars and everything, but like it was small things on some essays where I would just literally just write an essay about my culture or like how I question some things. And he encouraged me to do that. And like, I think that's also because he really understood how much like being Ethiopian and like how much that meant to me. He told me like encouraged me to include that in my essays.
Incredible, amazing.
Yeah.
Now we have to talk about COVID a little bit because we can't you know, ignore it. How has COVID impacted you personally now with maybe the visa process or what's going to happen in the fall? What are you experiencing personally as a result of the COVID pandemic?
I mean, for me, thankfully, I am an American citizen, so I don't really need to worry in terms of like student visa. But I mean, obviously, the uncertainty of like, will we go in fall? Will we not? But they have let us know that like, as of right now, we will be starting in August and finishing a bit earlier. And I think USC is doing a really good job with that because, like we were saying earlier, they do have like a lot of committees that have like devoted themselves to like getting the school ready for fall. So I think hopefully, I mean, I hope we get a fall semester at least. I lost half of my senior year, so.
Yes, no, I know you're quite keen to go, and I would be too, to take this next exciting step in the journey. Now that you have the summer, these are the last couple months you'll be in Dubai. How are you planning to spend that time with your family or with friends prior to departing for the US?
I only have like a month or two left actually, so I'm trying to make as much of my time staying at home with my family, I guess, seeing a few of my friends for the last few times before we all have to leave. So yeah.
Amazing. And I think one of the last questions I have is, your brother went through this process just a couple of years ahead of you. Did you learn anything through his experience? Any lessons that you applied to your own journey?
I think, yeah, for sure. And this is one thing that Hale really helped me with as well, was in terms of like managing my time. I know how much like I remember seeing him in like the October, November of senior year and being like, I do not envy myself at this time. But I think seeing him go through that really motivated me to use this last summer that I had and like the end of my last year and really use my time wisely. And I think that's one thing that Hale actually helps with, is that like, especially going through IB, that first semester of senior year is just absolute hell. And so having Hale like setting deadlines much earlier and actually forcing myself to like stick to those, I think that really helps me like in terms of the application process and like having everything ready on time. It was a lot more helpful that way, because I can't imagine what would have happened if I came in like October and tried to start my personal statement at that time. It would have just been terrible. Yeah.
You'd be amazed how many kids do, and yeah. And how many come in even in December, a month before the deadlines. It's incredible. Never surprises me. But that's very interesting. You mentioned the IB. Let me just ask you maybe one or two more questions. The IB, in U.S. admissions officers' eyes, is the most rigorous, most highly regarded, most respected curriculum. In my opinion, the one that's most consistent with a U.S. university education, because of obviously the multifaceted coursework, the extended essay, the CAS. You mentioned how hard it was when you made the transition to the IB, but you had, I remember, pretty strong predicted grades when you applied. So it means that you were able to navigate the stormy waters quite effectively by the time you entered your second year.
Yeah, and I think with the IB, like I said, in terms of course load, it is obviously tough, but with the fact that it allows you to like gear a lot of your own research, like with the extended essay and everything. I mean, at least speaking for myself, I don't know if this comes out right, that I was actually invested in some of the stuff that I was researching, so it didn't seem like too much of a chore. But a lot of the biggest thing with IB for sure is your time management, because I feel like first semester of IB in like 11th grade was not too hard at all. It felt like 10th grade again, but then it all just hits you at once with like the CAS, TOK, everything coming in at once. And that's when I think navigating like your time and allocating that like effectively is the most important. But other than that, yeah.
It was good. And have you already researched which higher level courses USC will grant you credit for. If you do perform well in the IB, you get a 6 or a 7.
Yeah, they only give credit for higher level courses, but for both my economics and I took European history, so for that as well, you do get credits, and it takes away, I think, like 2 or 3 of your GE courses. I was looking into this yesterday, actually. So,
fantastic. And
yeah.
how will you take advantage of that? Will you jump right into more advanced classes in those fields, or will you take other classes that are a bit more fun or outside the box, because you can? You're not compelled to finish those GE courses or to enroll those GE courses.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly yet. I still have to speak to my advisor, but I think I am really looking forward to like exploring some of the different classes offered at USC, because I have been looking online. They have some like really, really cool classes. So as long as I'm still able to graduate in 4 years, then I think I really do want to look into these different classes. And that is one of the reasons USC is so famous, is because of their like emphasis on like different, taking like basically interdisciplinary like education, where they allow you to take many different things but still graduate with your one major. So I am looking forward to that.
Amazing. And honestly, the last question before we get to everybody else's questions: international relations, a field I'm very passionate about, a field that I also studied. Interesting because it's so versatile, right? It's interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary. Tell us a little bit about why you chose IR. Okay. What are the courses as an IR major you will take, and where do you see yourself after graduation?
Okay, for the after graduation, I'm not exactly sure, but and even as for what I wanted to major in, for the longest time, I had actually no idea. But that was one of the reasons I wanted to go to Georgetown and do that course, because I kind of had an idea of like how I'm not really like cut out for STEM. I didn't really want to go into that, but I kind of wanted to focus more on like the humanitarian side. Like I wasn't sure if I wanted to do law after or not, but just an undergrad that would allow me to really like focus deeper into like disparity and like inequality, for example, and something like that, or like terrorism and other things that I felt that I was interested in. And I think one of like the perks of international relations is like you can explore so many different things under one major, and I thought that was so interesting for me. And then like also once I got into high school, I started really enjoying economics, so I decided to add that on as like a double or combined major. But yeah.
Incredible. Wow, what a journey. Thank you so much for answering all my questions. Now I think we should get over to the questions of the students and maybe some of the parents who are here zooming in. So with that, Nermeen, I will hand it back to you, and please feel free, if you have not asked a question yet, to input it in the Q&A box, and we'll try to get through all of them.
Cool. Hi, everyone. So I'm just gonna go through some of the questions. There's a couple of questions from anonymous attendees. So what I'll do is read them out loud, and then Mekdi, you can just go ahead and answer. So the first question is, why did you decide to take some top-ranked schools off your list? Is it because of time, or did you decide that your target schools became more of your reach schools?
No, to answer that, I think for me, it was like I decided to take some of the schools off just because I thought there was no way that I would get in, and I wanted to add more schools that I thought were at my level. I still left a few of like 2 or 3 schools that I thought were top and like where I would want to go. But for me, yeah, I didn't change any of my targets to become my reach. But yeah, I just took off some of the schools that I just thought were too intangible, I guess.
And I think if I could just add, I think you had a truly balanced college list, where so many other students kind of, they have 7 reaches, you know, and then they'll have 2 targets and 1 safety, right? But you had a nice combination. You didn't overload on the reaches, which I thought was prudent. And of course, you did get into at least 1 top program. So I think that was healthy. Another thing I would just say is that sometimes when students do overload on the reaches, it's very hard to get rejection after rejection after rejection, right?
Exactly.
So it's nice to have more options than fewer. And of course, if you're applying to the top schools, some schools are going to be reaches for everybody, the Stanfords, the Princetons, the Yales, and the Harvards. But there are
Yeah,
some
and
more.
I was looking for scholarships as well. So I knew if I just did all these reach schools that there was no chance I'd even get like any money or anything. So yeah.
Very good. Excellent question. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. All right. So the next question is also from an anonymous attendee, and it kind of goes in line with what you're talking about, your subject areas. So they ask, do you know what your minor will be if you choose to do one?
I haven't chose anything for a minor yet. The two majors that I am interested in are economics and international relations as of right now. But I have thought maybe like partially about maybe picking up a minor in a language just because I knew it would be very helpful in terms of like maybe where I want to go in the future. And I do have a good base for like 2 or 3 languages. So I may perhaps in the future pick up a minor in a language.
And if I might add, to major in AR, you have to demonstrate, to major in IR, you have to demonstrate proficiency in a foreign language. So if you've already demonstrated that proficiency, you're fulfilling the requirements not only for the IR major, but possibly for a minor as well. So you can count both of those courses, which makes it easy.
Okay.
Yeah, which makes it easier to have a minor in languages if you are an international relations major.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. So the next question is about your extracurriculars, and that is which extracurriculars do you think set you apart?
Like I said earlier, I think my volunteering really did set me apart. But on top of that, I can touch on my MUN experience with my Model UN. I know people think at this point that might not really stand out because so many people do end up doing it. But for me, I made sure I stuck with it since the 8th grade, which is what 4 or 5 years now. And on top of that, I did delegate like both here in Dubai in different schools as well as internationally. I traveled to 2 different conferences in Europe. But I think on top of that, showing progression within that club really did make me stand out because obviously I started off as a delegate and then I made sure I got different chair positions. I ended up being in the leadership team as well. And then finally, in my final year, I organized a conference for GAA, like our own school conference. So I think that does show progression and commitment to this one club on top of my volunteering as well. I also had tennis on my application since from wherever I can remember. Like I've been doing tennis forever. And then I think in that as well, progressing to being captain of my school team for a year and everything, just showing progression within stuff that I was passionate about. I think that really did make me stand out.
Right, and it's progression, but really strong dedication, consistency, and commitment to the same core groups of activities, not dabbling a little bit here, there, discovering new ones, but you had, really invested all of your time into the activities that you cared about throughout high school and even earlier, right? Which I think really set you apart, without question.
Yeah.
Nice. So we have a question from Dhruv. So I think if we just unmute you, Dhruv, you can ask your question live. Oh,
Dhruv?
I think you'll have to unmute him.
Okay, which Dhruv is it?
Oh,
we have a couple.
Matur.
Dhruv Mathur, who's also an IR major, I believe, a budding IR major. Dhruv, you are unmuted. Okay, hold on one second. Yeah, you're good.
I just had a question. How did you divide your school list into like safeties, targets, and reaches? Like how many safeties, how many targets, and how many reaches do you have?
Okay, yep. I think I had 2 to 3 safeties, and I actually just tried to play it kind of smart with that just to give myself some closure. I did 2 of my safeties early action just so I would know before like the second round of applications whether I got in or not, so then I could have at least like my backup ready and then just focus on my like targets and reaches for regular. But I think I had 2 or 3 safeties and then around 3 to 4 target schools and then like I think 3 reach schools as well.
Great question. Thank you, Dhruv.
Yeah.
Nice. So kind of in line with that, anonymous attendee has asked, you've talked about GW, Hopkins, and USC. What are some of the other schools that you applied to, if you don't mind sharing?
Yep. I applied to GW, Hopkins, American University, Boston University, LMU, UMass Amherst, NYU, USC, UT Austin, and Northeastern University.
Cool, thank you.
Very good.
We have a question as well from Sophie B. So I think if we unmute Sophie, she can ask her question live.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sophie, you are live.
Hi, Mekdi.
Hi.
So much for everything you've said. It's been so helpful. So, my question was, well, I'm very passionate about drama, and whilst you were mentioning USC, I was doing my little bit of research on it, and it seems like an awesome university. And I actually had spoken to Peter before, and I was kind of advised to look at other areas of study as well. And I was wondering, in USC, do you have that flexibility to how much time do you have to explore other areas? Because I love drama and I want to pursue it wholeheartedly. However, I am still questioning what to combine it with, because I'm very passionate about psychology. But after talking about international relations, it sounds like such an amazing thing to study, and especially since I'm very passionate, I'm a very good people's person. I love leadership, I love helping people. What advice can you give for someone who's like looking to make a decision into that?
Yeah, I think USC is a very good school for that, because I don't really have the stats off of my hand, but I remember this is one of the stats I really looked into while applying as well, was that like almost everyone either has like a double major, or like a major minor, major double minor. Like they explore many different things in their 4 years, and I think USC does really help you with that. And a lot of the students I've even spoke to in my incoming class as well, a lot of them do explore like drama as well, just because USC is such a good school, being in LA and everything, for drama as well. So I'm not really sure what you'd like to pick up, but even if it was to be like drama and international relations or anything, it is very easy. I from what I see, I haven't been there yet, but from what I've seen online and like heard, I do think it's a school that makes it very easy to like pair it up, like pair your studies, even across schools or anything.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question, because I know Sophie's interested in NYU as well. So for you, having applied to both Mekdi and both, big names, big gateway cities, right? High international student population. What were the differences, kind of through your research, into both universities?
Between NYU and USC?
Yes, those two specifically.
I think those are very different experiences, and like people were very confused with me as well, because I did apply to my fair share of like very city and like not campus like universities, as well as schools like USC, UMass, which are just huge, like they're just huge like on-campus schools. And it really depends what you're looking for. I guess for me, I didn't really mind, because I do consider myself like a city person. But I mean, going somewhere like USC, you just get the best of both worlds, I think, because you're on a campus where it's like obviously gated community. You have like the normal American like football games, everything, but at the same time, it's a 5-minute car ride and you're in downtown LA in the middle of the city. So I guess it's a bit of both. But when looking at NYU, it's very like, it's in New York City. I mean, there's like buildings that are your school combined with like other just New York buildings. But I mean, both are just very good schools. It just depends on what you're looking for out of your experience, I guess.
Good. USC definitely has a better football team. We just call it football here, not American football. That's soccer, that other game. So that's another difference as well. Thank you very much for sharing your insight. Excellent. Nermeen, back to you.
Awesome. So we have another anonymous question, which is about standardized testing. So could you just share a little bit about your experience with standardized testing, whether you did like the SAT, the ACT, that kind of stuff?
I did the SAT. I didn't want to do the ACT because, like I said, I don't think I'm very geared towards STEM, and I didn't really want to do the science section, to be honest. But with the SAT, I took it twice, and like I said, I I mean, I wasn't disappointed in my score, but I know that like for some of the schools that I was aiming to get into, the ranges you see published online were just very like disheartening because I felt like I was very far away from them. But like I said, like everyone's experience is different. And if you feel like this is your weaker link, then I think instead of dwelling on that, really just put that energy into something else, because as I know it gets cliche at a certain point, you've all heard this a lot, but like they really will look at you as a person. So I feel like even if this is the one part that you think might let you down, like I did, then just focus on your other areas because they will make up for it.
Great insight.
Yeah, thank you. So the next two questions, I'm going to combine them because they're kind of similar, but any advice on how a 14 or 15-year-old could spend this summer in semi-quarantine? And then alongside that, any advice on the kinds of extracurriculars or things that students can do in school to find activities to help them stand out?
Mm-hmm. I feel like with extracurriculars, it's never really helpful when like someone else tells you what to do, because I think it's just about finding what you think you would be interested in, whether that be a sport or I don't know, anything related with coding or MUN, or it's just anything that you find yourself to be interested in. But the only thing I would say is I'm glad the question is like for younger people as well, because start early and like make sure you devote yourself to that, because I feel like it's more showing your commitment and passion towards something rather than saying, oh, I have the best extracurricular. It's more about like what you've done towards that extracurricular.
Very good. Yeah, I think everybody needs to, I mean, we all understand that we're on the same boat here, that we don't have the same access to many activities, opportunities that we traditionally do, but there have been tremendous shifts and adaptations made on behalf of everybody from potential employers. Citibank is offering a really great virtual internship to academic institutions. Every single summer program is now online. So there are opportunities to continue to stay involved. So being in quarantine, of course, poses challenges for all of us, but it's also an opportunity for us to innovate and adapt as well.
Yeah, definitely. We have one more question, which is, from your research, what sort of community is there at USC?
I think community is one of, like I touched on this a bit earlier, but community is one of the main reasons that I did pick USC. And I think it's just a very close knit, like everyone is like helping one another from what I can see. And it's just a community where everyone is just so happy to be where they are, that like they're constantly trying to better like everything there. So I think that was very important for me. I didn't really want this like, I don't know, spiteful or maybe like a spiteful community basically. And it was just somewhere where everyone genuinely wanted to be there and they were invested in their education. And I thought that that really stood out for USC, and everyone was really proud to be a Trojan. Like even when whether it would be with like a sport or like in the classroom, I feel like everyone really just did support each other. So that was important.
Amazing, thank you. Thank you, Nermeen, for moderating the questions. I want to thank Elijah, who is not here, who was your counselor, who worked very diligently with you and who deserves you know, a lot of recognition for his efforts. So many thanks to Elijah. Mekdi, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for appearing on our webinar. I think everybody really enjoyed your insight and your experiences, and thank you for being so honest and sharing. I'd like to thank everybody for attending. If anybody would like to ask more information about how Hale can help, just send us an email, info@haleeducation.com, and we can set up a free initial consultation. Thank you. Until next Wednesday, at same time, same place, we will see you then. Take care. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much.